It has been a brutal week in the crypto market. Meanwhile, Nvidia is now the most valuable company in the world. What do you know, Kev? It's going to be a magnificent day. Excited to talk about all of that and much more on today's episode of Money Never Sleeps. Video. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. As we get going, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember that nothing that Kevin or I say is financial advice, because at this point, I'm like the Jim Cramer of crypto, so don't listen to a word I have to say. Do your own research for making any buys or sells. Kev, the last 2 days have been pretty rough in the crypto streets. Seen ETH take a big hit. It's up over 3,600 yesterday, down just below 3,400 as of this moment. Bitcoin didn't have too bad of a day yesterday. Not great so far today. So we're in this weird phase. Like, you would think that the sky was, the way that people are talking online, you think the sky is truly falling and that Bitcoin would be down to 40K. Just not the case. Kevin is frozen, I believe, on my end. I don't know if anyone else can see or hear this. Kev is frozen there. So let me, and now he's gone. All right. So this is going to be a fun one. Kevin's internet is eating shit. Let's talk about some of the numbers real quick. We can see a pullback in crypto. Like I was saying, we have the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow pretty flat on the week. As I mentioned at the top, though, Nvidia absolutely continues to climb. Kevin, we got your back?
Yeah, it should be good now.
All right, buddy. Good morning. All right, good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. I know you're traveling over the weekend for work. Want to kind of get your thoughts off the bat on the state of the market and the direction things have been going over the last 2 days.
Yeah, it's been kind of wild, right? I haven't been around too much in the markets, what's going on lately. I've just been kind of watching the price action, but I'm not surprised that TradFi continues to keep pushing up. We talked about this OpEx being really important for this date, and a lot of people are going to make a lot of money on it. That's why we're kind of saying that it's a really good time. And we're already starting to see rate cuts in other parts of the market, but very different than what we're expecting. Kind of the hope that the market's going to go up off of rate cuts is kind of getting people excited to be in the market for when it actually does. Everyone's kind of front running everything. So that kind of makes sense why TradFi continues to stay elevated and everything continues to stay in the money. The scary part more so has been what we're seeing in crypto. A lot of the altcoins starting to bleed pretty significantly. And that's the problem with this. It's going in this channel. We knew it was in a parallel channel. So many of these things, continuation patterns. We just don't know when it's going to break. And the thing with altcoins, the amount of liquidity that's probably in the system for that market, the total 3 market, it's probably pretty bare. We see rotation of capital and Bitcoin's going up, and alts kind of follow with it. But the same thing kind of happens when Bitcoin goes down. We see that capital just rotate back into stables. So we're seeing stablecoin dominance kind of go up. We're starting to see a bit of a pullback. I'm very interested to see how it goes from here, because you would kind of anticipate with a major pullback like that, you got to get a bounce. We don't know that though, right? And right now, I think with these next few months going into the election, anything could really happen in terms of direction. You had a really good run in a lot of the crypto and TradFi markets for probably a year and a half now. What happens next is anyone's best guess, in my opinion.
Yeah, we haven't seen the bounce, and so many of the alts are oversold, have been for a few weeks now, but
Yep.
that can carry on for a while, right? We see the stablecoin dominance has been overbought. Obviously, those are inversely correlated there. God, look at me using a big word like inversely correlated.
Doing great.
Real quick. Okay. So we had some data come out this morning around retail sales, and no surprise of either of ours, the numbers came in under expectation. They also revised previous month numbers down. So retail sales have not been going the direction that was initially given to us, which isn't surprising, right? Like, people are like times are getting tough for a lot of people. Kevin's frozen again. That's fun. But retail sales came in below expectations. We're starting to see that strain on the consumer. Now, is this good for the prospect of rate cuts sooner than later? I think so. If we see retail sales going down, we already know that some retailers and like food businesses are cutting prices to try to be more competitive. If sales continue to go down, they're going to have to cut those prices even more. That will be a positive for inflation. That will be good for rate cuts sooner than later. So, unfortunately, it is some pain right now. Hopefully, it means that we can get things down to a better place. We can get rates coming down in the next, 3-4 months. Like, we're not getting a rate cut in July, most likely. No meeting in August. So maybe September is our chance for our first rate cut. And if we see sales coming in under expectation, if we see, CPI and PPI continue to cool, there's a good chance that there are going to be those rate cuts this year. The market after last week, I believe, priced in 2 rate cuts again, which I think is getting ahead of themselves. We've heard from the Fed that, like, the market can't help but get ahead of itself. Everyone wants to front run, like you said, and be the first in line to project a rate cut. But who knows, man? Are you still with me or are you frozen again?
I can hear you. I just can't pull up anything on my screen today. So I think you're going to be the chart guy today for us.
Oh, Christ. Well, that's not good.
We're just talking general terms, though, so it'll be easy.
Okay. Why don't any other thoughts that you have on the data that came out today? We have a ton of Fed speakers who are talking as well. And it's been the same kind of message from all of them of like, we got to take it meeting by meeting, look at the totality of the data, the lip service that Powell always gives. Anything that you've seen in the data or from the Fed speakers that has you thinking about the rate cuts in the near future any differently?
Not necessarily. I think the rate cuts mean something bad has probably happened. I think that's just the end all be all, especially with the U.S. Like I've said, we're the last resort when it comes to the strength in the markets. I think in equity, because you see all that money that was in China go to Japan, money that was in Japan moves to the U.S. And it's just like this game of just realigning capital in different places in the world. And I think that's where the U.S. is, especially with this NVIDIA boom, right? It's the American companies that are at the top of the game right now. I mean, NVIDIA surpassing Microsoft and Apple both still doing pretty good up here. It's going to be interesting to see if we do get rate cuts. I will say that back in 2008, we saw a majority of the layoffs happen in 2009, 2010, and that was after the rates had been dropped significantly in 2007 to that point. So I just want to, bring up that, we could continue to see layoffs even well after rates are back at zero. The key thing is, once again, how much debt. If we don't get that debt rolling because the rates aren't low enough and people aren't borrowing, then these top level companies can't borrow for cheap in order to pretty much boost production, which would eventually cause people to start getting their jobs, rehires once again. So it's going to be really interesting. I don't think the rate cuts are bullish one bit. The Euro stocks had a terrible week last week after they rates, so I think that's kind of the direction that we're heading, and it's probably the Fed and maybe some of the offices November's best interest to keep rates maybe elevated here. That might be the best case, because once the rates get cut, that might be just absolute chaos.
One piece of news we haven't touched on yet came out Friday afternoon, I believe after the markets closed, but sounds more than likely that the ETH ETF is going to be approved before the July 4th holiday. So, we saw that led to a little bit of a run. That was a good for the people who were on top of it. That was their opportunity to sell near the local high, because we did see things run up a bit into the weekend off of that news and then come cratering down. I mean, I even bought a meme coin that was doing well, and now it's I'm about even on it. Like just brutal stuff here, man.
Sorry, man.
It happens. My buy of Solana, boy, that's why I'm now the Jim Cramer of crypto. Is like I think I know what I'm talking. That was good. That was good. Now I'm I went from a little scalp trade there to now being a Solana community maxi. So here we are.
No, I knew. Here's the thing. I've been talking about alts not doing well, right? I knew that was going to happen. But the Bitcoin one, man, I thought Bitcoin was going to rip up and then you were going to see the alts pull back because of that. No, everything just decided to dump in the past week since we had our last show. I texted you literally after the show. I'm like, wow, I was a fucking top. It dropped like $1,500 as soon as it ended the show. I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, I mean,
no,
there's
Jim Cramer and Iggy Azalea together on
was
CNBC. That was the top.
Oh man, yeah, that's
what
it's
chart
really,
do you want me to pull up since you're not able to from your computer right now? Do you want me to start with Bitcoin?
yeah, let's do Bitcoin. Get into crypto. Pull up on Coinbase or Binance, whatever. I don't care.
got TradingView.
Same, yeah. I mean, it's like those exchanges, the trading pair. Yeah,
I got the trading
it's all
pair on
the same
Coinbase
shit.
here.
Good. Yeah, it's
So here we are on the daily, and as we can see, like it's been Bitcoin has been this oversold
I can't even see
territory
it.
just for a little bit. You can't even see it.
No.
God bless
Is that
it.
me? Is that me or is that you?
I mean, I can see it.
Okay.
It's on my
Well,
screen. I can see it.
Here. I got a better idea. How about I get my phone and I look it on my chart that way?
Okay.
You're not even laughing right now on the screen for me, so
this is really good. Thank you, StreamYard, maybe. Thank you, Xfinity. Now Kevin is a spinning circle because I guess he tried to use the internet on his phone and his computer at the same time. So that's going well. Yeah, as we can see here, on the daily for Bitcoin, pretty good sized pullback so far today. We're at this local high of just under 72K back on Wednesday the 5th. So, we've seen this pullback. It's not all doom and gloom though. Like, I think everyone needs to, we talk about zooming out. I mean, listen, it wasn't too long ago, back earlier this year, that we were at 42K and considerably lower before that. So yeah, would it be cool if we were in the 70s and we were pushing all-time highs? Yes. Do I think that there could be more pain ahead? Also, yes. But do I think it's worth trying to time the bottom and, sell here and try to buy lower? Like, I'm personally not doing that because, as I've proven to myself, I am not good at that. So I will just remain patient. And when we have days like this, try to accumulate a little bit more, dig in between the couch cushions, maybe go down the street, sell some semen or blood. I don't know. One of the two or both, not mixed together, obviously.
No.
What'd you say, Kev? Can you hear me? This is just a absolute dumpster fire. Kev, can you hear me now? Stop sharing my screen. Good stuff. Very, very good. Okay. Not too sure what else we want to talk about because it's just going to be me kind of speaking off into the ether. I would say, once again, don't get freaked out by the state of the market. We will see many green days ahead, but this could just be, this happens in any market cycle. There are going to be pullbacks, and those pullbacks are often opportunities. Kevin, how are we? Can you? Okay.
It's better. I switched to the other network.
Let's see how this goes. Can you see and hear me? This has been great.
I can. I know this is.
It's been so
I hope.
Good. I can hear my wife laughing at me in the other room, like, "What are these idiots doing?"
Look at these idiots talking about their little stupid coins, losing 30% since they were talking about it the last episode. These dorks. That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Okay, what? Besides, do you want to talk about Bitcoin? We want to try to screen share again. Like, what's
I can pull it up on mine now, I think.
All right, let's see how this goes. See how it goes.
I'm just as excited. Let's see, Bitcoin. There we go.
Well, right, we can see it.
Wonderful.
Crazy.
Yeah, just stupid Google Nest that I think wasn't working. But yeah, this is the fun thing about Bitcoin right here, right? It was actually a double top. And I completely agree with you. It's really hard to time the market here because it could do one of two things. You could squeeze the shorts and go for an all-time high, which I believe to be true, based off of the technical analysis. I'm just going to pull this out further. You can see that it could also go down a little bit more. Maybe find some support right around here on 62,000 or so. And then maybe you get a bit of a bounce rally. And that could be, some type of complicated A, B, and then like a C pattern that brings us up to that height that we've seen on the Coinbase chart, where obviously, it's historically the the top of a major bear flag that everyone thinks is bullish. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously on the stochastic RSI and the daily, there's plenty of room to the upside. I don't negate the idea of there ever being a major squeeze in crypto, right? We've seen it before. It's really hard, I think, now when we're starting to see this with stable coins, because with Binance, they're being watched like crazy when it comes to a lot of wash trading and where money's going in out of some of those accounts. Some of these other exchanges are probably going to be getting the same type of scrutiny, or there already is that same type of scrutiny, and it's going to be very hard to see Tether print money nonstop like they once were, especially when it's this much in the market. Now, if it does happen, would anything happen like legally? Probably not, right? It's a really weird place right now in these next few months. But I do think that we are starting to see some major sell-offs, and we're seeing extremely low volume across the board. Now, this is just BTUSD on Binance, but let's go to Coinbase. Yeah, see, Coinbase, that chart is pretty much perfect. It's probably going to find some support around here. I'm not saying long this one bit. I really am not, because it's a really tough place to go long. Obviously, there's a bit of support here if you're for a swing trade, but you got the 50 moving average as resistance. You bounced off of this, you came up, you get rejected, maybe you come up again and you break it. But if you don't, then you're probably back in this channel and you're looking to like the 200 EMA, which is somewhere around 57,750. So there's definitely, some room now where it's like it's a little harder to play this range. When you're up here at 74K, you got a pretty good chance of making some money on the shorts down, because it's like, well, if it does push up from here, if I'm using low leverage, I don't have anything to worry about. And if you did short from up there, then you're probably doing pretty well for yourself, right? Say short from 74 down to where we currently are, say 2x leverage, that's a 25% profit that you make on such a trade. But now anything can happen. I think we're going to be entering a period of liquidation where you can see people in both directions get absolutely wiped. What happens next in crypto? I don't know, though. I'll be honest with you. The alts are just bleeding, doing the opposite of what I thought, but still doing exactly what we thought. We got Bitcoin dominance now. Looks like it's going to rally towards 50. Got a bit of a pullback here, but I do think that we will continue to see this start to rally if, say, Bitcoin goes up and then the rest continue to drop. But we're also seeing USDT dominance rally once again, right? It bounced off this and put in a higher low, and it looks like maybe this is a bit of a bull flag that we're going to see for even stablecoin dominance. It's going to be fun. I really do think it's going to be fun, because it's not even, I wouldn't even say this is a bull flag. I just think it's a parallel channel that it's trading in. And if it breaks above the 200 EMA, the last time that it broke above the 200 EMA was right here in November of 2021. And you know what happened in the 12 months that followed, obviously. So a lot of nice correlations that we're going to take a look at and see how that plays out. But it really is going to be a matter of time. OpEx is kind of the main thing that's going to be interesting to see if TradFi has any input on Bitcoin's price. But as of right now, it looks like it's kind of doing its own thing as opposed to what TradFi is doing.
All right, let's look at some of the alts here. Let's go to ETH because, that is the next shoe to drop when it comes to the ETF world. And, I think part of what's keeping Bitcoin where it is the fact that we do have so much institutional money involved in Bitcoin at this point. And it's going to be one of the major talking points in the election ahead. I think that is important. So what are you seeing in the ETH chart here? I know you're expecting it to go down more. Do you think we're going to be headed, sub 3,000 wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. Where do you feel like we're headed over the coming weeks?
As of right now, if the ETF is anything similar to how Bitcoin's was, right? And again, I don't say that they're the same, because I do think that where we are in this cycle, and also how much money is still available to be, expended and, to buy some of these products, it's very different than where we were a few months ago. We got that report today. Consumers are strapped, so pretty much what we're probably going to be seeing a lot of this is going to be people who have money on the sides, or they're pretty much institutional buyers that can afford to take a bit of a gamble on this. Maybe that's what pushes it up. But what I'm seeing here is a double. It's a lower high that we were putting in here, and arguably it's possible that we can put in a double top, but it's going to be more problematic, I think, to even get to I think it's going to be problematic to even get to this point right here. If we can get to like 4,000 again, I don't know if it'll be able to. The interesting part, once again, very similar to Bitcoin, is that we're below the 50 moving average and the 200 moving average is right here. So, I mean, say in the next few weeks, the ETF goes live and we see something very similar to how Bitcoin's ETF reacted in those first like 3 weeks or so after it went live. I don't think it's unlikely that we see, a 10, 11 point drop to like say 3,000 at 200 EMA. That's if the 50 holds as resistance. So my guess, obviously I know I'm bearish, but at the same time, I'm trying to be as fair as possible with some of this. I think that there's a good chance that we could see ETH, maybe get a wick down to this level. You can see that there's obviously some good support in this range too. But, I think if it bounces off that and it doesn't go below the 200 EMA, then you're pretty sound for maybe another test of the 50 moving average, or, maybe find some resistance right around the level that we're currently at. So maybe we form another range, but I think that 200 EMA is going to be one to watch. If I'm completely wrong and it pushes up, then obviously the next level of resistance that we're going to want to take a look at is right around here at 4,090. And, maybe in some way this is like a major ABC once again, where just put in a little bit of a higher high and that could be fine. But then obviously what comes after that is going to be a 5-wave move if that's the case. And maybe that takes us below the 200 moving average. So below 3,000, I don't think that's unlikely, a wick down there. I do think that it's maybe a bit hype to get this before July 4th. And then maybe we can talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the next few weeks that are going to be really interesting. I mean, we have the first debate on the 27th, I believe, of this month. If you get, I would be surprised if crypto doesn't come up in the slightest. I think that's going to be one of the main talking points for this election.
Trump has definitely been talking about it. It is funny how Biden's administration is pursuing all these lawsuits in crypto, but also now going to be accepting crypto donations. So it's with Bitcoin as the custodian there. So really some wild stuff going on here. But yeah, crypto will be discussed. There will be some opportunities there. I'm sure there'll be some meme coins created that will run up and then absolutely rug. So, Godspeed, good luck if you're playing in those fields.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely catastrophic in my opinion. The volatility that's coming. If you're a swing trader and you're really good at setting stops, limits, and take profits, I think you're going to have a good old time, especially during those nights when it's trading. But just going over to total 2, obviously we're putting in another lower highs, very similar to the ETH chart itself. But if we look at total 3 is an absolute disaster. We talked about that double top, came down significantly, going into a bear flag, breaks out of it below the 200 EMA. There's a lot of people who are saying this is a great opportunity to get into the market. You can definitely make an argument for that when you're looking at alts, right? They're cheaper than they were. They've had a good run up, but what you kind of have to take into account is how much capital is out there and how fast is it going to move up, and are you willing to be, pretty much glued to the screen, or have your take profits and stop losses in place in case anything happens, because anything can happen. The problem I'm seeing right now is that total 3, the entire crypto altcoin market cap, excluding obviously Ethereum, is below the 200 moving average. Now, why is this important? Well, because when things are below the 200 moving average and it's like the beginning of it, that's when you see most of your gains to the downside. This is where most shorts make a really good amount of money, right? You can't pick tops necessarily, but when you see the trend is to the downside and you're still within, whatever pattern that it's trading in, looking at this right now, this could be a 5-wave, and we're in the middle of a 3-wave right now. Let me just show you guys what that would look like. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 could be something like, we'll say right here. I want to say it's a little bit more. So like right there. Wave 4 could be up a little bit, and then wave 5 could be the one that brings us all the way down. You could see something like that, and this is where most of the money is probably going to be made, right? Below the 200 moving average, riding it down to the bottom. Everyone's going to panic sell down here, and that's where most people are going to pick up a lot of those coins at a really good value. That could be one thing that we're seeing. There's two. The double top and the bear flag and the break from that below the 200 moving average. That's scary. That tells me that maybe we're not in the most bullish of circumstances for altcoins. You look at total, not necessarily double top unless you want to count it. here and here, but we're still early because Bitcoin and Ethereum are still holding up fairly well compared to everything else. So the thing you're going to want to be watching is if we get to test this 200 moving average down here at 2.1 trillion for total one, and for total two, you're not too far off from the 200. If you get that total two underneath the 200, there's a good chance that Bitcoin might be the last one standing pretty much for any type of gains or any type of store of value. So keep an eye on those. Those are very important. But just run through alts real quick before we get into two last things, both really quick. Matic broke out of this channel. I mean, it's a major sell-off. It's terrible. Hasn't been here since September of last year, interesting enough. So see how that plays out. I know AVAX had a bad one. Yep, AVAX broke out of this chart. Oh, we got to do it. We got to play it. Hopefully my computer doesn't crash, but that is... Yeah, we got the death cross on AVAX on the daily, and you can see, like I said, below the 200. Once it was below the 200 moving average, I mean, this is an amazing opportunity. You're down 26, 27%. The amount of money that was made on that and leverage, absolutely insane. So the 200 moving average is a very good indicator. Obviously, you can come below it, and at some point it was going to break. I think this blow off top that we saw in AVAX, like right around here, and then the rejection and the loss of the 50 moving average after you broke through it that violently, broke and you got resistance bounce here, this would have probably been the perfect area to open up a short. But I mean, 3x, you're up 100% on that trade. Let's look at Link. Link was very similar to that. I don't think Link's done, in my opinion. I think that this is still that parallel channel. We had a bit of a fake out blow off top, and there's a good chance that we could see maybe a little bit more. Obviously, the support is right here at $10, but if you lose that, then you're looking somewhere around like $8.50 or so. So that could be from the loss of the 200 moving average to $8.50. 42.62% drop there, and then obviously shitcoins like Cardano, which I love, but it was in a continuation pattern. It was going to break from it. It is now trading at 37 cents after being up near 81 cents just 3 months ago. So the alt market, it's a casino right now, and people are going to have a lot of fun playing it, but not for me. Not for me. Let's talk about
I think
Nvidia
at this
right
point, it is like find the alts that you believe have actual use cases in the next 5 to 10 years, and do some DCAing and just don't worry about the day-to-day fluctuations, right? Like one thing that I don't think we touched on last week was, huh? We made it so far. We were doing so good. Oh,
there we go. I got you.
There we go. We hadn't discussed BlackRock and Citadel talking about how they want to start their own stock exchange and how heavily it would appear crypto is going to be involved in that. And I think, Chainlink will be at play there as well. So if you are a believer in what Link is doing, not a terrible time to DCA if you think that this is going to have an impact in the future. I don't know if it is. Like, I DCA'd Chainlink a while ago and it was like $8, and I'm just kind of sitting on it, hoping that we see all-time highs there. But let's talk. Speaking of all-time highs, Jesus Christ, let's go to the most valuable company in the world, NVIDIA.
Absolutely. And one last thing too with crypto. If you believe in fire sales, there's no such thing as a safe asset. It doesn't matter if the asset has nothing to do with what the fire sale is going on at. That means all things must go and everyone's trying to get out at the same time. Just keep that in mind. I'm not saying that for crypto. I mean that even for something like NVIDIA right here. So the reason I'm bringing up NVIDIA, obviously all-time highs today, and also, richest company in the world, right? Congratulations, Jensen, you did it. But let's take a look at this in perspective. Let's go to the weekly. Yeah, right. Burj Khalifa's just standing there.
So ridiculous.
It absolutely is ridiculous, right? And we got tons of gaps all the way down. I mean, we got massive gap right here, massive gap right there. Right here, there's a gap too. And on the weekly, it's a little bit harder to see because we're not looking on the daily, but those are just like Friday and the Monday, seeing how much it shot up over the weekend. I'm bringing this up because we're starting to get major cracks in the AI narrative. McDonald's has canceled its partnership with IBM for AI automated self-ordering. So that's at the drive-through and at the counter. And Why is that important? Well, it just shows you that they are looking for alternative methods in order to, cut costs. But the reason that, say at a time when they're not hiring and they're obviously hurting and they're trying to, get people into the store, into the restaurants, and make up for the consumer just absolutely bleeding. The only reason that they'd be getting rid of this is if the product itself doesn't work. And that's the scary thing, because that's pretty much the reasoning that we're getting why they're cutting their ties with the AI, IBM deal. Now we're also seeing that ChatGPT, I forget, I don't see, I want to pull this up on the screen, but I can't because I feel like it's going to crash. But it's a tweet that was saying that ChatGPT on average is accurate about 52%. That's not great. That's a terrible number when we're talking about, AI being the future of things. These products are starting to show cracks, and the scary thing is Nvidia is at all-time highs, right? There is a lot, like, we need to have a product behind it in order for it to be justifying why the market cap is up this high. And I'm not just talking about Nvidia, but I'm talking about AI as a whole. This is the entire bubble that we're seeing, from, Nvidia to, if I can pull it up, Apple's stupid stock buyback that they did, to Microsoft. Obviously, these are all at their all-time high, and they're also the ones that make up the most of the S&P 500, right? The other day when we were on the show and I was traveling, 360 companies in the S&P 500 were down red on the day, but the S&P was still up crazy because Nvidia, Apple, and Microsoft were all doing extremely well off the AI narrative. So what happens when that narrative busts? The companies that were still hurting are probably still going to be hurting. You're going to see probably what we're seeing to the upside just as fast as the downside. And that's why I brought up the fire sales. And that's why it's important, to see this stuff, because at some point, very similar to crypto, shit ain't going to hold. Support can only be support for so long. Then it's going to become resistance. And then guess what? You're riding a red candle down all the way. So I'm very, very skeptical, obviously, of the AI bubble. I think that it's absolute BS, but I am also skeptical of how much this is going to impact the entire market. I think that we're going to see a major crash, and maybe it's not this year, maybe it's next year, maybe it's after the election, but that's the three companies that are going to cause it. And it's probably going to be because the AI bubble. And I'm saying this right now in terms of similar how we've seen, Cisco, Nortel, Enron, all those companies back in the .com era just absolutely tits up once the bubble did bust. And this is no different, in my opinion. There's a lot of things going on in the world we talked about too that could absolutely hurt this. I mean, if we want to talk about China and Taiwan, there's a good chance that would absolutely crush the AI narrative. We can talk about the banks just not, creating debt, and then there's no more money to push into the Nvidia. And because of that, we start to see everything just kind of sell off because no one's willing to buy from people at this current price. There's a lot of things that can go on and that can happen, but definitely the stuff that we're getting around the AI bubble showing that there are cracks in it. No one's going to want to buy a product that's, half-assing, what you're pretty much telling people it can do. That's a problem. Maybe we're early in that stage, but I definitely do think that there's going to be people who are willing to sell. Point being that Jensen pretty much sold, I think, $31.5 million today of stock. So they're taking profit. There's just signs that we have to look for. I can't tell you when it's going to happen or what's going to happen exactly, but I have a feeling, given how history is repeated in financial markets, that we're going to be going down a very similar path at some point, maybe even worse. Who knows?
On that sunny note, we are going to call it a day. Thank you for anyone who stayed with us through,
Chaos.
an up and down kind of a stream. Randy, appreciate you being here. Whoever else was here. We had, there were some difficulties, but we got through. We got through it okay. It's going to be a weird week. Kevin is working tomorrow, so no show tomorrow, plus Juneteenth. Yeah, that stash. You're right. Leroy, I appreciate you. Then I'm going to be out of town, so the market can keep dumping some more. Missed you too, man. It's been a weird, summer schedule is kind of weird. But Kev will be back with a show or two later this week, so stay tuned for that. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate you all. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff is, it means the world to us. So stay safe in the markets. Maybe step away from the charts for a little bit. Go enjoy your life outside of this. It'll all be here waiting for you. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Enjoy the summer. Have a good one, guys.